Hi, I'm Phyllis from southernfrugal.com. We're getting ready to make an onion pie. This is going to be a Vidalia onion pie. So, the first thing we want to do is saute our onions. So, I'm going to show you how I do this. Now, it's going to take about 3 large Vidalia onions. In a large pot, melt 1 stick of butter. And that would be half a cup of butter. So I'm going to go ahead and get my onions going. And that one is rotten. So, can't use that one. So I have to get another one. This looks like a good one. Now I bought a whole bushel of these a couple of weeks ago. And I've been storing them here in the kitchen. But we're about finished with Vidalia onion season, so you would expect that some of them aren't going to, do so well. So anyway, you just need 3 large Vidalia onions. Now, if you can't find Vidalia onions, you can use just regular onions. It's going to take about a 3-pound bag. Now, I chop up my onions rather than keep them in, the circles. And I do that because once you cook the pie, it makes it a lot easier to cut, the pieces to be cut if you, dice up your onion. Okay, I'm going to use my little Vidalia onion chopper. And I have finally learned how to use this. And first I need to cut my onions up a little bit to get them in there. Then it's pretty easy. Again, I've got my butter melting in the pan over medium heat, and that is 1 stick of butter or 1/2 cup. Go ahead and dump these right into the butter. And what you want to do is saute these onions until they're translucent. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and chop up these other 2 onions and we'll be back. Okay, my onions have now cooked down and they're pretty well translucent. I'm going to go ahead and add about a teaspoon, or you could just only use a 1/2 teaspoon of a little sea salt. Mix that all around there. You do not want your onions to be browned. You just want them to turn translucent. And now we're going to have to cool these. So what I do to cool them rapidly is I put them in a sink with some cold water in it. Helps them to cool a little quicker. Alright, we're going to get started on our pie crust. Be right back. Alright, while our onions are cooling in the sink of water, I'm going to go ahead and make the pie crust. This is 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, it's not sifted. I just took it right out of the bag and put it in the bowl. 1 1/3 cups. About a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 cup of Crisco shortening. Now I'm just going to mix this up with my hands. And I know I've done one of the pie crust before, but I just wanted to do another one. I'm trying to get people to make their own pie crust instead of buying those frozen ones in the store or those in the refrigerator section of the grocery store. First of all, they're very expensive and they're not nearly as good as when you make your own. Alright, so we're just going to work this Crisco in with the fingers. You don't even have to, use one of those shortening cutters or whatever they call those little wire things. I've actually got one, but I never ever use it. Alright, so you want to squish it around with your fingers until it gets to about this consistency. So you can see little pieces of Crisco in there that look about the size of a pea. Alright, now 1 egg yolk, 3 tablespoons of ice water. Now, you might need 4 depending on your flour, but I always start out with 3. Now you want to just mix that up with a fork. And you'll know right away if you're going to need 4 tablespoons or not. Just dump that right in the middle. And then with your fingers, just start mixing it around, getting it incorporated. Now I have preheated my oven to 475 degrees. And I know that sounds like it's a really high, but we're going to get the onion pie started off at 475. Alright, this time we are going to need that little extra 4th tablespoon of water. And each bag of flour you get is going to be different, so it might even take more than 4 sometimes. But what you want is enough liquid in it to cause it to come together. And that looks about right. Alright, now you want to form it into a little disc. Set my bowl aside. Now, I've got 2 pieces of plastic wrap here on the table. Right here on my table. I'm having to use my table. I usually use the top of my cooktop, but I cooked the onions, so the cooktop is still kind of warm, so I don't want to put it on there with it warm. Alright, form it into somewhat of a disc. Just mash it out with your fingers. Set that aside. Alright, now the next thing we need is 2 pieces of saran wrap right over the top of it. I'm having trouble with this plastic wrap. The cutting edge isn't working as good as it should. But anyway, you want to put the 2 plastic sheets right over top of it. There you go. Alright, I'm going to rinse my hand off real quick. Alright, now we're ready. Okay, now this is going to fit into a 9-inch pie plate. So you want to just start rolling from the center. Roll a little bit, turn your rolling pin around, roll a little bit that way. Let me turn this down so you can see a little better. There you go. Roll it a little bit more, turn it the opposite way, and again. And sort of try to, keep it in a round shape if you can. keep rolling. Now it's pretty easy to make your own crust, and I'm going to tell you right now the best thing that ever happened to homemade pie crust is this plastic wrap. I used to use wax paper, but what makes the saran wrap or plastic wrap so much better is that it's so pliable, where the wax paper, you know, doesn't give as much as the plastic does. And you're going to see why in just a minute. And you notice we didn't have to refrigerate our pie crust, none of that. Now, Crisco does not have to be chilled like that, like it would if you were using butter. And also, the Crisco is going to make a crispier pie crust than the butter does. All right. That's about as good as I can do. So we're going to see if it'll fit now. Again, I'm using a 9-inch pie plate. That looks like it'll be about right. Now here's the part that makes this so nice. We're going to just pull that top layer off, the 2 pieces of plastic, just pull that off. And now you're ready to put your crust into your pie plate. Now the pie plate is not greased. So we're just going to position it on there, try to get it in the middle as much as we can. Now, see how it is? I'm just going to move it over just a little bit. Alright, now just start pressing down in the middle first, gently, and then press it up to the edges, the edge of the bottom. Now we're ready to pull the plastic off. And just very gingerly put that plastic all the way down to the middle. And voila, there it is. Easy as it can be. Now, I like to make my pie crust kind of even. So I just take a pair of scissors. Cut around in the middle of that little top edge. Now this has a really wide top edge on this pie plate, so that's why I'm doing that. Now if anything breaks, it's very easy to repair it. Very easy. Okay, cut that off a little bit. Alright, now you want to just make sure it's all mashed down in there. And if you have any little air bubbles, just stick a fork in them and mash the air out and keep going. Alright, I just flute my edges like this, just because it's quicker. And I do it right at the edge of the inside, because this has got a really wide edge and my pie's not going to come up that high. At least I don't think it is. So I just do this right at the edge. Now when you use a glass Pyrex pie pan, if you've got air bubbles in the bottom, you can actually turn the pie pan over sideways and you can actually see the air bubbles, so it's easy enough to get the air bubbles out. And so because of the onion pie, this is really a no-bake, or an unbaked, excuse me, pie shell. Alright, now I see an air bubble right there. Right here, There's one right there. So I'm just going to stick it with a fork, mash the air out with my finger in both places. And I think I see another one right over here. So I'm just going to stick that, mash it out with my fingers. And now when you mash it out with your fingers, you're also sealing back up those little holes that the fork made. All right, I think we've got it. There it is. Very, very easy pie crust. All right, I'm going to start getting the other ingredients for the onion pie together, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are ready to make the filling for our onion pie. You'll need 4 large eggs, and about 1 1/4 cups of regular whole milk sour cream. Now this is a 16-ounce container, and so I'm just going to take out a little more than half of it. And that should be about 1 1/4 cups. Now I'm going to just mix that around a little bit and get those things incorporated. I'm just using a whisk for this. You don't have to use an electric mixer. Just use a whisk. Alright. Now I'm going to dump in 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour right in the top. And right over top of that flour, I'm going to dump in 1/4 of grated Parmesan cheese. Now I use the kind that's already pre-grated you buy in the grocery store, and it's very salty. So we're not adding any more salt. And now, you might want to add pepper, but what I do is add just 1 little dash of ground nutmeg. Just 1 little dash. Now you won't be able to tell there's any nutmeg in it, but it definitely enhances the flavor of almost anything that's got milk in it. Alright, so we're just going to mix that up with our whisk. Those eggs all incorporated in the flour. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now our onions have cooled, and the onions already have a salt in them. So now we're going to add our filling mixture to the onions. And you definitely want to let those onions cool down to, you know, just barely warm or room temperature. Alright. Now all we have to do is just mix the onions in with the filling mixture. Just stir it around with your whisk. And we're ready to put it in our pie shell. Now, I keep saying that the pie is 9 inches. It's actually 10. I don't know why I kept saying that. All right, so here's our pie crust. Now, I didn't put this in the refrigerator because it's a pyrex, and I'm going to put it in a very hot oven. And, you know, they're subject to crack if they're cold. So, all right. So I'm just going to dump that in. Now you're cooking it at 475 degrees for 20 minutes. And at the end of, you want to set your timer. At the end of 20 minutes, turn your oven down to about 325 and cook it for another 30 minutes or until it's set. Okay, there it is. I'm going to put that in the oven now. When it's ready, we'll be back. And I will give you this recipe underneath the video on the description. I really didn't know you could do that, but they let you do. YouTube lets you do that. So I'll put the ingredients down under the video. All right, we'll be back. Okay, the onion pie is done, and we're going to let it cool, and then we'll cut it. Now, you might want to put some aluminum foil around the edge of the pie crust because mine got a little dark, but You really don't have to do that, but if you don't want the pie crust quite that dark around the edge, you could put a little tin foil around each, just a couple of strips around the edge of it. All right, so I'm going to wait till this cools, then we'll cut it, and I'll put a picture of the piece of onion pie on the thumbnail. All right, we'll see you next time.